Am I the asshole for waxing my 5-year-old daughter's unibrow? So my 5-year-old has a pretty thick, dark unibrow that is very noticeable. Because of COVID, her preschool was online, therefore she was never bullied for having it. However, this past summer, her cousins came over to visit and many of them teased her for her unibrow. They'd call her countless names, and at just 5 years old, my daughter already thinks she is ugly. It breaks my heart because nobody, let alone a 5-year-old, should think they are ugly. I reassure my daughter she's beautiful and not to listen to her cousins, but my daughter still believes she is ugly. In a week, she is starting kindergarten, and I really do not want the bullying to get worse there. So yesterday, I took it in my hands to wax her unibrow. I didn't shape them or anything, just waxed the middle off to get rid of her unibrow. My daughter was elated, looking in the mirror and calling herself so pretty. It warmed my heart to see her so confident in herself, but I made sure to remind her she was beautiful both ways. When my husband came home, my daughter was so excited to show him her eyebrows. In front of her, he called her beautiful, but after she left, we had a huge fight. He said it was horrible of me to be subjecting my 5-year-old daughter to beauty standards. And at such a young age, I'm pushing it on her instead of telling her she is beautiful the way she is. And no 5-year-old should be waxing their eyebrows, and I'm pushing the mentality that she is only beautiful without her unibrow. And that my daughter is too young to know what she even wants, and she should have been able to make her decision to wax it off when she is old enough. I truly understand all the points he has made. However, my daughter has told me she wants to get rid of her unibrow, and I didn't want her to grow up with the bullying and teasing and blame me because I could have prevented it. So, am I the asshole for waxing her unibrow? I, 35-year-old female, threw away old photos of my husband, 44 male, with his late wife years ago. He just found out and he hates me for it. I met my husband 4 years ago, and it was love at first sight. He was a widow, and he had a daughter who is now 17. It was tough to deal with, I won't lie, but I wanted to be with him so badly that it didn't matter. We got married 2 years ago, and we've had our struggles, I won't deny, but overall, it was a very happy, love-filled marriage. At the beginning of our relationship, I was really jealous of his late wife. He had pictures of her around his home. His family loved her and talked about her all the time. It was tough. I was constantly comparing myself to her. She was beautiful, intelligent, and successful. She was a great mother, friend, wife, whatever you can think of. I did speak to my then boyfriend about these feelings, and he even took down some of the pictures later on in our relationship. Still, his house never felt like my home, as it felt like it was still hers. When we got engaged, we decided we would buy our own home, and we moved in right before we got married. During the moving process, I found box after box of old photos and other materials. Photos of his ex, family photos, photos of them together, baby photos, everything. Some of these were even Polaroids. They were so old. They had been together for many, many years and had so much history together. I don't know why at that moment I snapped, but I did. I threw the ones with her in them away in the garbage. When we were putting photos up in the new house, I didn't put any of her except ones with my stepdaughter. There was a box of her things, and I donated some of the items and threw the rest of them away. I even went onto the computer and deleted photos he had stored on there. At the time, I felt like I won maybe. I don't even know what I was thinking this would accomplish, but I did it. For the past 2 years, my husband hasn't noticed. My stepdaughter turns 18 soon. She's a very intelligent girl. She graduated early, goes to a top-tier school, and is very well adjusted for someone who lost her mother so young. Anyway, my husband's mom wanted photos of her as she was putting something together for her. He went to look for them, and as you can imagine, they weren't there. He asked me about them, and I admitted everything to him as I wasn't going to lie to him. He is very angry at me, and he can barely look at me. I've asked him to go to marriage counseling, but he refuses. I'm 13 weeks pregnant, and I'm trying to manage the stress. He's devastated, not just for his daughter, but for himself. I know he loved his late wife very much, and if she was still here, he'd probably still be with her. He's been in tears half the time when he's speaking to me, and he won't sleep in the same room. I've tried to explain that I have felt guilty ever since and why I did it, but he doesn't care. He asked me what he's supposed to tell his daughter. Some of the material I donated/threw away were really important. I know that I screwed up, and I know that I need to make this up to my husband and his daughter, but I don't know how to. This was such a monumental screw-up on my part. I have always been jealous of her, and I did not handle my emotions correctly. I have tried to track down photos of her by other people, and while I did find some from his parents and her friends, her parents died when she was young, and she was raised by her grandparents who are now dead. There aren't many photos of her out there. Am I the asshole for buying my cousin's dream car to prove a point? I, 26-year-old female, work a corporate job at a major fast food chain. I won't say the exact title, but I don't work at an office and spend most of my time visiting and coaching stores and associates. Because of this, my family seems to be under the impression that my job is a loser job, despite me making well over $150,000 a year. I think this perception is exasperated by the fact that I'm a frugal person who doesn't tend to surround myself with expensive things. My cousin, 34-year-old male, is a physics professor at a nearby state university and has done very little to hide the fact that he looks down on my job. From what I understand, we make similar money, but he's still paying off his doctorate degree. I didn't go to college. He has a much bigger house and mortgage and 2 kids. I'm child-free, meaning I have much more disposable income than him. For nearly 2 years, he's been talking about how he really wants a Tesla Model X and how he's slowly saving money for it. He'll joke about how much he wants it by describing how he sees it in his dreams in exquisite detail. Well, several months back while we were at my aunt's birthday party, my cousin made yet another backhanded joke about when I get a real job and make real money, and it was like the straw that broke the camel's back. I was so beyond done. I went back home immediately after the party and ordered a Tesla Model X for myself, exactly to the specifications he has described. So, a couple of weeks ago, I picked up my car and brought it home. I didn't tell a single soul in my family I bought it. But yesterday, I had plans to pick up my cousin's older son to babysit, and I knew it was finally time. I rolled up to my cousin's house in my shiny new Tesla that I washed and polished just that morning specifically for this meetup. Needless to say, cousin was pissed. He asked me all about it with strained enthusiasm and got visibly more angry the more he noticed it was just like the one he wanted. So, in what I would assume was retaliation, he tried to make a comment about, wow, it must have been an adventure and a half to find a bank willing to give you a loan like this. I laughed him off and casually told him I wouldn't know since I paid in cash, which is true. He questioned me, so I pulled up a picture on my phone of the title with my name on it. I think that was what broke him because he quickly ended the conversation and went back inside. But now I've been getting messages from his siblings saying how I'm a petty bitch. Even my mom said that she thought he was an ass, but I shouldn't have escalated just because I could. And while I adore my new car, getting back on my cousin wasn't as satisfying as I thought I'd be. So I'm really beginning to wonder if I am the asshole here. Am I? Am I the asshole for ruining my niece's birth over a name? I, 29 female, was pregnant with twins a few years ago. Unfortunately, only one baby survived, a little boy who we called Henry, and my daughter who passed, we called her Daphne. My sister and I were close growing up, but we drifted apart. There was a rivalry on her part after I met my partner. For example, she hated that we got engaged before her. She has been with her partner for 3+ more years, and she threw a fit saying she wouldn't attend our wedding unless she was engaged too. So they got engaged, and threw an engagement party the night before my wedding. When I announced my pregnancy, she wasn't happy, as I'd done another thing before her, but when my daughter died, she seemed to be a lot nicer. Because of this change, we made her Henry's godparent. She became pregnant recently and refused to announce the name until a few days after birth. The baby girl was called Theodora, which is beautiful. I was bringing presents to her, and I saw my dad building a huge toy box with the name Daphne on it. When I questioned this, I was told the baby is going to be called Daphne and only Theodora on paper. No one will use her full name, only her nickname. All of my family knew and supported her. I got upset and started shouting, asking if this was a cruel prank. She came out and told me to F off. I don't own a name, and she liked it since my baby's funeral. My family are on her side and say, why do I care? My baby is not here, so there is no confusion, and don't see why I caused a scene and ruined her happy time, and why can't I be happy for her? They're saying I'm being petty and cruel. They want me to apologize, but I don't want to. So, am I the asshole for getting upset over choosing my dead baby's name? Am I the asshole for tracking my husband's sleep pattern? My husband and I recently got into a big argument about our sleeping habits. My husband is a big time snorer. When we first moved in together, I thought it was cute, so I didn't say anything. But now that it happens every night, I've been getting a bit frustrated. I try to tell him he snores, but he thinks I'm joking and brushes it off. He goes to sleep first, and by the time I go to bed, his snoring is in full effect. I decided to take things into my own hands and downloaded Mental Tracker. Mental Tracker is a scientifically informed sleep app that empowers you to better understand your body's natural circadian rhythm, identify potential health risks such as sleep apnea, and improve your quality of sleep. All of your recordings are kept in your journal where you'll be able to pinpoint any area of the night you might have been snoring, sleep talking, or happen to stop breathing. My favorite feature is the snore data. You'll be able to see how long you snore throughout the night and how loud. It's really easy to start. Set your alarm for the next morning, start the sleep tracker, and keep your phone plugged into its charger. Click the link in my bio today to download for free. Am I the asshole for marrying my sister's baby daddy? I, 36-year-old female, and my sister, 29 female, got pregnant when she was 18 years old. I am infertile and knew I couldn't have kids, so when my sister said she was giving her baby up for adoption, I decided to be her mom. My sister went no contact 5 months after giving birth. For a bit of background, my sister got pregnant by a one-night stand, and she apparently didn't remember or know the father at the time of birth, but when my daughter V was born, a man T, 35, messaged me on social media claiming to be the father of my child. My sister had run into him at a club and drunkenly confessed to the pregnancy. We met up, he bonded with his daughter, and well, that man is now my husband of 7 years. Coming back to my sister, she called me yesterday. Although I was surprised at her call, I picked up. We made some small talk, and then she said she had just gotten married a year back and both of them wanted children but couldn't because her husband was infertile but really wanted kids. I asked her if she wanted to adopt, and she said no, she just wanted her baby back. I was speechless for a few moments before replying that if she wants to meet my child as an aunt, she is welcome to, and we can both sit V down and explain the reason for her absence, but she can't just ask me to give up my child. My sister said she'll sue me as she is the birth mother. I told her she was out of her mind, and then I told her how I married the baby daddy, T. She exploded, calling me names and saying I stole her life. My husband came home from work, and when I explained to him, he was beyond furious. I then got a call from my parents saying I was an asshole for telling my sister she's not allowed to see her baby. I never said that, and I welcomed her to bond with V, but they refused to listen and said I was being insensitive and harsh and flaunting my family. I now feel bad because my sister and I were very close growing up, and I feel quite close to her situation since I know the struggles of infertility. My husband said there was no way he was letting my sister have full time alone with V, and I agree, but I want to know if I'm the asshole for being too harsh and telling her about T. Am I the asshole for cutting my hair so my sister had a longer punishment? This technically happened around 7 years ago, but after newly revealed information, things are tense. Back when I was 17, my younger sister Ellie thought it would be a fun prank to cut my hair in my sleep. I'm a bit of a mover and active dreamer, so when I suddenly jolted, my sister panicked and ended up cutting off a much longer chunk than what she wanted. Out of instinct, my sister let out a scream, so I woke up and saw what she did. My parents woke up to me yelling at her and in turn yelled at her too. My mom took me to the hairdresser and I ended up going from having my hair halfway down my back to a pixie cut. As punishment, my sister had to use some of her savings to pay for my new hairstyle and then gave my sister a choice to either get a buzz cut or no phone and no social life until my hair got longer. Let me be clear when I say until my hair got longer. I don't mean that until it's back to its original length, but rather long enough so that growth was noticeable. My hair usually doesn't take too long to grow, so my sister chose the second punishment as she didn't want to lose her hair. That just made me all the more furious, so out of vengeance, I would give myself little trims at night in the bathroom every once in a while to make it seem like my hair wasn't growing. Eventually, my sister got tired of waiting and missed hanging out with her friends outside of school and asked for some other type of punishment. Our dad reminded her of her option, but it still had been months and my sister felt like it wasn't fair because she didn't intend to cut as much as she did and that she apologized and insisted that while my hair could grow back, she could never get back time that she missed enjoying her teen years. My sister would cry and pout but refused to shave her head to get back her privileges. Over time, I got over wanting revenge and just let my hair grow and my sister was ecstatic to getting off the punishment. Years went by and we never spoke about it again until we had a conversation with our cousins talking about the worst thing we've done to our siblings. My sister brought up the haircut and I casually mentioned how I got back at her. I didn't think it was a big deal anymore, but my sister got upset and later texted me calling me an ass. So, am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for refusing to let my family meet my daughter after all of them dropped out of my wedding upon finding out my wife was pregnant? I come from a conservative Christian family. All my family members were/are involved in the church and have church-based jobs. When they met my wife, they loved her and embraced her as their own. We dated for 2 years and discovered she was pregnant after we got engaged. Invitations were already given at the time and we decided to still have the wedding on the date when my wife was 5 months in. My family was furious when they found out my wife was pregnant. They asked if we were even still considering having a wedding. I said why not, but they were very upset, especially my mom and dad, who said that they've always been known for their decency and good Christian values, and they weren't willing to let this stain their reputation, as in my wife and I getting married while pregnant. They officially dropped out and refused to negotiate, saying it was done and I have only myself to blame for this outcome and should have moved the wedding to out of town. I was hurt and I tried to change their minds and checked with other members, but my brother said he had no intentions to look like a joke in front of his fellow church members and dropped out too. My aunt pretended to be sick and said she may not be able to make it. She's 100% healthy. My cousin said he had a business trip and stopped his wife and kids from attending, and my uncle cussed me out, tore up the invitation, and kicked me out. I felt terrible with no family members of my own to support me and share my joy at my wedding. I even broke down crying after the ceremony. I haven't spoken to them for months and then got busy with my 4-week-old daughter. My cousin reached out to hand me gifts and well wishes for the birth of my daughter sent from my family. I returned everything. He sat with me on behalf of my family and said I shouldn't have returned the gifts and that they were from my family who want to see and hopefully be involved in my daughter's life. He said my mom's longing to meet her grandbaby and everyone else is wanting to visit soon to celebrate my daughter's life. I said, wasn't my daughter the reason why the entire lot of them abandoned my wedding? My daughter at some point will ask about the wedding and I have no intentions on lying to her. He just started stuttering as I went on about how they treated my daughter as someone to be ashamed of and hide. He replied saying he guaranteed I got it all wrong and no matter what goes down between us, I can never deny that my daughter is their granddaughter/niece, etc., and that they're family. He asked that I arrange for them to visit, but I refused. My wife says I should let them come, but I still refuse. So, am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for making my boyfriend rehome his German Shepherd? Me and my boyfriend have been together since we were in university. We're both 23 and recently moved in together. We both went to our local university, so we both lived at home so we'd be able to save money. Around a year after we started dating, my boyfriend got a German Shepherd puppy. I've never been a fan of German Shepherds, but I'm a dog lover, so I wasn't going to tell him not to get one when we weren't even living together yet. When we moved in, my dislike of German Shepherd was confirmed. The dog leaves hair all over the place, barks whenever someone walks by our house, needs extreme amounts of exercise. I could go on for hours. However, I was willing to put up with it since my boyfriend had otherwise trained him well. I now realize how stupid that was since the dog breed seems to have problems regardless of how well it's trained. I recently got a Rottweiler puppy and to say that I formed a bond with him would be an understatement. The German Shepherd, on the other hand, didn't take too kindly to the puppy and would have made its disdain for the dog known. Me and my boyfriend took the dog to the vet to see where where the issue could come from, and she told us that some German Shepherds just don't get along with other dogs. My boyfriend suggested that we may have to rehome my puppy due to his puppy's disdain of him, and he could still find a good home since he was only 5 months. The thought of rehoming something I loved for a dog I couldn't stand mortified me, and to think that the only reason for rehoming him would be because of another dog's nasty behavior didn't make the situation any better. I told my boyfriend that there was no way I was rehoming my puppy and that I'd be willing to move out if need be. After days of arguing, my boyfriend took the dog to the local shelter. The house has been much quieter since, and I can honestly say it was one of the best decisions I ever made. My sister, on the other hand, didn't hold this sentiment and actually referred to me as an evil bitch for putting my boyfriend in this position. So it got me thinking, am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for trying to prove if someone's boobs are fake? One of my 30 female close friends, male 30, went on a date with this girl. The next day, we all went to the gym and he was raving about her body, especially her chest. I took one good look at her and proceeded to tell my friend that her boobs were most definitely fake. I could tell right away that they were a bit too perfect to be real. My friend then asked if it's because I've seen her naked before in the locker room. I actually haven't, but that doesn't matter. He begs me to find out if they're fake or not, but I refuse. The problem is, now that I put the thought into his head, he doesn't want to date her anymore. A few days later, I was in the sauna at the gym when my friend's date, Sidra, walks in. I overhear her telling her friend how she went on this amazing first date, and he asked her out on a second date, but out of nowhere calls and cancels and says he doesn't want to see her again. I scoff loudly and apologize for eavesdropping on their conversation. She then starts removing her towel while introducing herself to me. I got up to shake her hand, but lost my balance and fell right into her while my hands grabbed onto her chest to break my fall. And well, they're most definitely real. I then tell my friend Jerry about what happened at the gym and he freaks out because he canceled his date based on my assumption. I feel really bad for making the assumption first, but Jerry is also at fault for canceling a date over such a simple matter. To find out what happens next, tune into Seinfeld, coming to Netflix October 1st. Am I the asshole for not having my stepdaughter in the family photo? I, 32 female, and my husband Jack, 36 male, have 3 kids together. Lydia, 5, Carol, 2, Solomon, 8. Jack has an Ephraim, 8 female from a different marriage. It's our last week of summer before the kids start school, so we decided to rent a lovely little beach cottage for the week. It's a common theme in my family to take Christmas card photos while on vacation, so naturally I wanted to take the photos while we were away. Here's a problem. Jack is white, but Ephraim's mom is black and she turned out looking very much like her. I don't care what race she is, but my parents, however, are pretty racist. I have limited contact with them for several reasons, so they've never met Ephraim, but we're on Christmas card terms. I don't want to send them a card that Ephraim is on because they will make a fuss about the certain word with the hard R, child. So my plan was to take pictures with just me, husband, and bio kids for my parents and a couple other relatives, and then have her be in the picture for Jack's family and our friends. But when I called picture time and told Ephraim she wasn't going to be in this picture but the next one, she started to look upset. I did let her take our pictures, which lifted her spirits, and we got some lovely pictures with her too. We also got some ice cream and she hasn't been upset beyond that initial moment. The trouble came later when Jack asked why I didn't want Ephraim in the photo. He said he thought it was maybe so I could get one with all of my kids. I didn't want to lie to him, so I told him why, because I don't want Ephraim to be exposed to people who could potentially and emotionally hurt her. Just like that, he went from being understanding to pissed. And I guess he said, she didn't want you in her picture because you're black, or something like that to his daughter, and now she's upset with me too. I really wasn't trying to hurt her in any way. I did this out of care and love, but I think I might have done it in a wrong way. So, am I the asshole? Did I mess up by asking a coworker how his girlfriend's driving test went? Me and another coworker accidentally triggered one of our other coworkers. We have a small workplace/shop where everyone's business is constantly spread around. So a coworker of ours recently started dating a girl after splitting from his wife. This new girl was a few years younger than him and did not have a driver's license and was going to college. We would kind of tease him about driving his girlfriend everywhere. He was also somewhat reserved in speaking about his relationship, like intimacy, but he would laugh everything off. Anyways, he requested some time off to go take his girlfriend to do her driving test. Later in the afternoon, he came back to the shop, and when he walked in, I asked, "So, how did the test go?" And my other coworker said, "Yeah, did she pass it?" In response, he just looked at both of us in a confused way and angrily spouted, "What the F?" He shook his head and said, "Why does everyone need to know all my business?" And then he went on and on about how nobody can have a personal life at this place. After his rant, he said, "It went all right. The doctor just gave her some cream and said that she will need to apply for a few weeks, and if I developed anything, I will too. But right now, I'm fine." Silence. I looked at my other coworker and he looked at me like, "What the?" Both of us cracked a smile, and then I looked back at him and said, "The driving test?" And his face went so red, he hurriedly said, "Oh yeah, she passed it," and quickly left. My other coworker and I busted out laughing. So this dude's girlfriend had picked up an STD from a different dude. Not long after that, everyone in the shop did know his business, but it was his own fault, right? Am I the asshole for making my brother leave after he brought his kids to my child-free wedding? My wife and I got married days ago. We decided the wedding will be child-free. We thought this was the best option considering several factors from budget to keeping the order, etc. Everyone got an invitation, but my biggest concern was how my brother Ramsey, 36, was going to react. Ramsey married young and has 4 kids that he takes everywhere he and his wife goes. They're always there at every family event. The kids are grade A hyperactive to say the least. I gave Ramsey the invitation in person and he read it out loud in a sarcastic tone and then said, "Child-free, huh?" I nodded and he got somewhat mad saying, "Are you serious? But my children have never been excluded from any big or small event, let alone their own uncle's wedding." I said sorry, but it's already been decided and everyone had to follow the rules, not just him. He started off for a minute and then to my surprise he said, "I totally get it, man. No children means no children. No worries." I was glad he didn't start an argument over it and seemed to accept the rule. The day of the wedding came and Ramsey and his wife didn't show up until shortly before the ceremony began. My best man noticed that Ramsey had arrived and had all his kids with him. I was legit mad and I went to meet him at the entrance and saw he brought all his kids against me and my wife's wishes. I greeted the kids and asked my sister-in-law to take them back to the car. He loudly asked what the F was wrong with me. I asked why he brought his kids and who said it was okay. He said no one, but he was planning on bringing the kids all along and figured that by initially agreeing to my rule, then showing up with the kids anyway would get me to agree on letting them stay. I stated this was no event for kids for many reasons and that everyone respected the rule except him. He complained about me disrespecting him and his kids since, again, he never attends any event without them. In his words, "Wherever I go, my kids follow, period." I told him he needed to leave then. Not only did he call me a lunatic, but a terrible brother and terrible uncle. He also called me a simp for agreeing to his wife's stupid rule, saying that if it was him and his wife even hinted he couldn't have his family's kids at their wedding, he would have dropped her right there and then. It was humiliating and loud enough for the guests to notice. My in-laws did too. I told him to leave and that's when my mom and aunt tried to convince me to let it go and let them stay, but I refused and had him leave after a massive argument between us. To say that I felt absolutely shitty is an understatement. Everyone gave me grief ever since that incident and are siding with Ramsey, saying I wronged him and acted cold towards him and his kids when they showed up to celebrate me and my wife. My dad is especially pissed at me for potentially permanently effing up my relationship with Ramsey, his wife and kids by kicking them out of my wedding. He quoted Ramsey won't ever forget this day. So, am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for helping my friend catch her boyfriend cheating? I, 27 female, and my friend Abby, 26 female, have known each other for our whole lives. Abby and her boyfriend Tony, 29 male, have been together for 3 years. Everything seemed to be going well between them, but over the last few months, things have started to go downhill. Abby has been telling me for months now that she is certain Tony has been cheating on her. However, she has no evidence, she just has a gut feeling that won't go away. After stressing out over it for months, she finally decided that she had to catch him in the act. A month ago, Abby came over to my house and told me that she had a huge favor to ask me. She told me that she knew I was Tony's type and he would go bonkers if I were to hit on him. She told me that she wanted me to accidentally bump into him at different places that he would go to. She would tell me in advance where he would be and what time he would be there. She then told me to gradually become more flirty over text and call in order to make it appear more real. I was hesitant at first, but Abby was crying and begging me to do this. She had to know the truth. I eventually gave in and went forward with the plan a couple of days later. To make a long story short, Tony fell for my fake advances almost immediately. Within the first week, he was saying how hot I was and how he's had a crush on me and that he wanted to hang out. The final nail in the coffin that confirmed everything all took place yesterday. We made plans to meet at an obscure motel with the intention of hooking up. Abby went to the motel before me and Tony in order to catch him red-handed. After me and Tony arrived, he gave me a hug and started making out with me. Abby jumped out of hiding and started screaming at him that they were over. She exposed him all over social media, which resulted in him getting trashed by most of their friends. Abby thanks me and says she finally got the closure that she needed. However, a few people are saying that what I did was tacky and immature. They're saying I should have stayed out of the relationship entirely. So, am I the asshole? Am I wrong for taking my friend to court after she kicked me out of the bridal party for cutting my hair? For my friend's 3-day wedding, I had to buy 3 different dresses, including alterations and specific shoes, which totaled over $700. She also wanted specific hairstyles for each day. Unfortunately, starting in March, my hair started to deteriorate. Due to health reasons, my hair was falling out in chunks, and in May, I made the difficult decision to cut my hair. I told the bride about my decision 2 weeks before the wedding, and she didn't say anything bad. The following week, she came over to my house, and when she was about to leave, she brought up that she was concerned about my haircut, and I told her it would look good even though I wouldn't be in uniform with the other bridesmaids. The following day, I received this message. After our recent conversations, I like to remind you of my boundaries. I've been very accommodating and graceful, but I cannot allow you to disrespect me. As you know, my wedding has been something I've dreamt of for many years. My husband and I have invested a lot of money into the video and photos of this day, and as we reflect on this day in the future, we want to see our vision reflected in the memories. Since I asked each of you to be my bridesmaids in 2019, I've been very clearly and very communicative in my request. The timing of your decision to cut your hair and not come in advance is very upsetting to me. I would have felt respected if you had communicated with me me more than a week prior to the wedding, so we could have worked together to find a collaborative solution. Your inconsistencies have concerned me, and while I sympathize with your health conditions, I'm not willing to compromise my vision to accommodate you, or anyone else, when you have informed me in advance and we could have found a better solution. Since this is something you can no longer fully commit to, I need you to please step down from participating in my wedding. This was 3 days before the wedding. I immediately sent her and her husband an invoice asking them to reimburse for the dresses and shoes, keeping in mind that one of the dresses is still in her possession even though I paid for it. I was told I was inconsistent and selfish after I spent the past 2 weeks helping her plan the wedding shower. I worked with another bridesmaid to surprise her with a bridal shower after our bachelorette trip had to be canceled. I spent hours helping her out with wedding details. When she asked me to help her tone up before the wedding, I sent her a personalized workout program and even went with her to the gym to show her the ropes. When I agreed to be her bridesmaid, I was more than willing to oblige with what she asked, even if at times it was a lot of time and money. So, am I wrong for taking her to court because she kicked me out for cutting my hair? Am I wrong for not wanting to name our first child Black? My partner and I are having our first child, and I stupidly made a deal with them where they got to name our child if it was a boy, and I got to name it if it was a girl. I know, I messed up. Well, we are having a boy, and the names my partner are coming up with are not for me. I have managed to convince them to forget the deal we made, so at least that element is gone. But this does still mean they seem to have a little more say than I do in the situation. Anyway, the name they are really eager to use is Black. We both want something a bit different without being too hippity-dippity, and this is the outcome. The reasoning is something along the lines of, colors as names are already a thing. Violet, blue, and black is just a cool color. They just think it sounds really cool. However, I think it's a bit odd since we are both white. It just seems to me like, yeah, it's a color, but it's more than that. It's a race, and a race is a pretty sensitive topic. They think this is crazy logic that has nothing to do with race, and making it about race is absurd. Just to clarify, we will not name our child anything we both don't agree on, but this convo has now become more about whether or not the name is just a color or something more charged, and neither of us can really see from the other's perspective. So, am I wrong here? Am I wrong for kicking my brother out for announcing his wife's pregnancy right after I announced my daughter had cancer? Just to make sure I represent both sides of the conflict, my brother and his wife suffered from not having kids for years. It impacted them greatly. They love the kids in the family but always wish to have kids of their own. Lately, we got busy with my daughter Megan, who is 12, health problems. She started suffering from anemia, loss of appetite, and recurrent fevers. We've taken her to the pediatrician, and from there we've learned that she has cancer. It was so devastating, I didn't want to tell my family right away. Most of them have chronic conditions, and this type of news might trigger a negative reaction because they love Megan and would give everything to see her healthy. My husband and I decided to gather the family at my house this past Wednesday to announce Megan's diagnosis. My aunt didn't take it well because she holds Megan dear, so she was rightfully the most devastated one. After a few minutes of complete silence, my brother started moving in his seat, saying there's something very serious he wanted to tell everyone. He was hesitant, but then he and his wife stood up, and then he said that they found out that they were finally expecting. The family were conflicted. Some got up to congratulate them, and some remained seated. I remained seated, and my brother then approached me and expressed how sorry he was that they had to tell us in these circumstances, but said he couldn't wait since this is a huge deal for them after years of waiting and because everyone was present. Literally everyone was there since I said the announcement we wanted to make concerned Megan. I argued with him about how he thought this was an appropriate time and asked if Megan mattered to him at all since he didn't take a minute to realize she was just diagnosed with cancer. He started reminding me how many years he and his wife suffered from frustration and disappointment for not being able to have kids, and argued that because he wasn't able to be a father until now, he's 37, he felt he was missing out on so much for many years, and that I didn't have to finally tell him congratulations, but should at least not guilt him for feeling overwhelmed and excited to finally be a father. He said I knew exactly how much he adores Megan and I shouldn't even think otherwise. Then said he was just sharing good news after hearing the bad news and there was nothing wrong with that. I told him and his wife to leave the house right then. He said he won't argue anymore because of how tense I felt, but will expect me to apologize at some point. Some family agreed with me, but my parents thought I shouldn't have taken my anger out on him like that, and that he'll always remember my reaction to the news he gave and should apologize after I've calmed down. So, was I wrong for my reaction? Am I wrong for telling my sister her rainbow baby isn't special? I, 27 female, have a set of twins, Ben and Betty. They just turned 6. My sister, 32 female, has Connor, who is 4. My sister and her husband lost their first baby due to SIDS. It was devastating for the whole family, and I was behind my sister 100% of the way. I couldn't imagine what it was like. Anyway, when she found out she was pregnant with Connor, we were all excited. The pregnancy went well, and Connor got a good bill of health. I love my sister and I love my nephew, but my sister is convinced that because he's her rainbow baby, that means he can do whatever he wants. Connor is incredibly spoiled and a brat. He throws fits to get his way, hits, kicks, cries, whatever it takes. My sister and her husband give him no discipline. He's their rainbow baby, so that is their excuse for his bad behavior. Their lives are to serve for whatever Connor wants. My twins just turned 6 and we had a small party for them. Everyone was having a good time except for Connor. He wanted cake, didn't like the games, wanted to watch TV, wanted ice cream now, didn't want other kids to touch him, and etc. Basically, the whole party, Connor threw a tantrum. The final straw came at present time. My husband went to get the gifts out of the living room only to find Connor had ripped nearly all of them open. My sister made excuses saying he was just excited and wanted to play with my kids' new toys. I lost it. I told her that Connor isn't special, that he's a brat and he's been ruining the party since he got here. My sister immediately went on that he's her rainbow baby and he didn't mean it and maybe I should have put the presents where he couldn't get to them. They were in the living room and the party was outside. No one was inside. I lost my temper. I know I did. This was my kid's party though. I said some nasty things to her. I told her that Connor isn't a baby anymore and he's not special and she's raising a self-centered brat who will grow up to be a self-centered adult. She left the party and then my parents called. They said they understood my frustrations and everything about the situation. Then they said they still feel like I should apologize to my sister. Why? Because I have 2 healthy kids while she lost one and she's still having to deal with it? I told them no, my sister should apologize for how her son acted at the party. My husband and the guests who were at the party are on my side. My sister hasn't really spoken to me in a few days, just posted passive-aggressive things on social media, which I just blocked. So, am I wrong here? Am I wrong for telling my friend I don't want to be her bridesmaid anymore? My friend Mary and I have known each other since we were children. We've grown apart over the past few years, but she still considers me important enough to make me a bridesmaid. Her wedding is set to be in 3 weeks. One reason why I sort of distanced myself from her was because of her treatment of my relationship. My boyfriend Jack and I have been together for 3.5 years. He's a wonderful person and there is no doubt in my mind that this is the man I want to marry. But Mary is under the impression that Jack is too good for me. Jack comes from a very wealthy background. His parents are certainly very wealthy. He was practically guaranteed a lavish life from the moment that he left the womb. I grew up in a low-income neighborhood, often wondering where my next meal was or how I was going to help pay the bills at a young age. Jack is considered to be conventionally attractive, always looking like he should be on some sort of magazine or billboard. Jack's good looks and background have led Mary to believe that Jack deserves better than me, as according to her, there's no way I could have pulled someone so attractive and rich. It's pretty disheartening to hear those things constantly, and it does take a toll on you and the friendship. Whenever Jack is around, she's quite polite and respectful, never once making these comments. Eventually, the comments did stop. Mary invited me for lunch with her fiancé and his friend Gary. From the moment I arrived, Mary and her fiancé were consumed in their own conversation, paying no attention to the both of us. It was fine, as Gary seemed to be a great guy and we easily chatted. He asked me why I was single, and I told him that I was in a happy, committed relationship. He was very taken aback by my answer. He told me that Mary had set up a blind double date of sorts for the both of us. I was very confused and slightly angry. I didn't want to be confrontational at lunch, especially in public, so I just carried on with the lunch. Luckily, Gary wasn't upset and ended up making a few jokes about the whole ordeal. I called Mary later on in the day and asked her a ton of questions about why she thought it was okay to do that. At first, she tried to deny it, but then she tried to justify it by saying that Gary is a man who's more in my league, and since he was also a groomsman, we needed to get to know each other better. I was shocked at her bluntness, so I just told her that I didn't want to be her bridesmaid anymore. Granted, it was a pretty impulsive decision, but I still stand by it. Mary didn't take it well, trying to apologize and saying that it was a mistake. It's been a few days and her fiancé has been texting me asking me to suck it up for the wedding. I feel petty and conflicted right now. So, am I wrong for what I did? Am I wrong for deleting my friends' wedding photos in front of them? I'm not really a photographer, I'm a dog groomer. I take lots of photos of dogs all day to put on my Facebook and Instagram. It's my thing, if that makes sense. I very seldom shoot things other than dogs, even if I have a nice setup. A friend got married a few days ago and wanting to save money, asked if I'd shoot it for them. I told him it's not really my forte, but he convinced me by saying he didn't care if they were perfect. They were on a shoestring budget and I agreed to shoot it for $250, which is nothing for a 10-hour event. On the day of, I'm driving around following the bride as she goes from appointment to appointment before the ceremony, taking photos along the way. I shoot the ceremony itself, and during the reception, I'm shooting speeches and people mingling. I started around 11 a.m. and was due to finish around 7:30 p.m. Around 5 p.m., food is being served and I was told I cannot stop to eat because I need to be a photographer. In fact, they didn't save me a spot at any table. I'm getting tired and at this point kind of regretting doing this for next to nothing. It's also unbelievably hot. The venue is an old veterans legion and it's like 110 degrees and there's no AC. He tells me I need to either be a photographer or leave without pay. With the heat, being hungry, being generally annoyed with the circumstances, I asked if he was sure and he said yes. So I deleted all the photos I took in front of him and took off saying I'm not his photographer anymore. If I was to be paid $250, honestly at that point I would have paid $250 for just a glass of cold water and somewhere to sit for 5 minutes. So was I wrong in this situation? Am I wrong for giving my friend THC-infused oral strips? My friend and I recently hung out together and she saw me using an oral strip and asked me to try one, thinking it was a breast strip. Oral Leaf is a discreet cannabis-infused oral strip that speeds up and enhances the desired effects of THC. The strips were made by Love Pharma. Love Pharma is a future-looking company in an ever-changing industry offering innovative products through disruptive technologies, both proven in perspective that target mental and sexual health, improving the quality of everyday life for all individuals. Their goal is to enhance both sides of the wellness coin by offering naturally occurring therapeutics backed by scientific research. Love Pharma supports all of its products with as much clinical data and research as possible and was recently listed on the Canadian Stock Exchange on Questrade. Am I wrong for not lying about why I could not remove my headscarf? I, 24 female, am a bridesmaid for one of my closest friends, Jackie, 24. I've been so excited to help. I was in charge of the bridal shower, the games, decorations, and menu. I left the guest list to Jackie's sister. Due to religious reasons, I wear a headscarf. I love and am very proud of it. In the group chat with other bridesmaids, I was talking about how excited I am to attend a girls-only event. I recently dyed my hair and wanted to show it off. I even paid extra to ask for a girls-only staff that day. Day of, as guests arrive, I realize one of them is Tori, 26 female. I know Tori as a family friend of Jackie's, but the few times I met her, it was before her transition to female. I was aware of it, but unaware she was coming to the shower. I don't mind at all, of course, and she's a lovely person, but I decided to keep my scarf on. As everyone's eating later, I'm passing by the tables to make sure everyone's good, and one of my bridesmaids mentioned that they hadn't gotten to see my hair and they wanted to see it. I tried to dismiss it at first or say, "Oh, I'll show you later," but the other girls at the table got curious. I got uncomfortable and I just said, "Oh, I'm actually not really comfortable taking it off right now." When pressed as to why, I said there's guests I don't feel comfortable taking it off in front of. There was a collective, "Oh," and I thought, cool, that's over. But one girl got aggressive and asked if I was referring to Tori. She's loud and the other tables turn to look. I don't answer. The girl asks if I wear one around men, so I say yes. She then says there's no men here, so clearly you should take it off. I tell her again that I'm keeping it on. Another bridesmaid defends me and tells the girl to chill out. Tori comes over and says me not taking it off is a slap in the face to her identity. I'm just shocked and had no clue what to do. Eventually, Tori and a few girls left saying that they felt it was disrespectful. I feel awful that this ruined a beautiful day for my friend. It's causing more trouble with people threatening to leave the wedding over discrimination towards me or towards Tori. I don't think I was in the wrong. Just as Tori can be Tori, I can be me. I feel like it'd be the equivalent of me making Tori or someone else adjust for me.